The dark sky gradually turned lighter. When Jacob and Kathy saw land again, they had already arrived back at their college. The warm sunlight had dried Kathy's tears. When Snowflake landed on the ground behind the library, Jacob withdrew the red energy sphere. It was still early in the afternoon. "Thank you, Jacob," Kathy exhaled deeply. If she had not elevated to level 8 of the Chi refinement realm, and did miss her parents that much, she wouldn't have asked Jacob to travel so far with her. "In the future, if you want to visit your parents, just tell me, and I'll bring you to them," Jacob said with a smile. "In the future, I'll go visit them myself. I'll cultivate hard to achieve this goal. But, really, thank you so much for today," Kathy smiled as well. Jacob understood that a self-reliant person like Kathy wouldn't want to ask for his help every time she misses her parents, and just said, "You're welcome." I gotta go now. I missed one class already." Kathy stepped back and jogged to her bicycle that was parked on the roadside. After she left, Jacob put Snowflake back in his storage space and headed towards his own class. He had missed half of the class already, but decided to attend the second half of it. Jacob went into the classroom through the back door, but he still attracted many students' attention. It was an elective course he had chosen together with Sam. Recently, Sam had been busy with training and matches, so he had to come to this class alone. "He's Jacob, right?" "Yeah, he forced Michael to back off last night at the restaurant." "The guy who used to come to class with him is the current captain of the basketball team, right?" "Michael's not afraid of the new captain of the basketball team, but he's afraid of this Jacob." The gossip began to simmer in the classroom with the arrival of Jacob. Jacob pretended to have not heard their whispering comments. He took a seat in the last row and listened to the old professor talk about some poem. However, he noticed some third-level dragon cultivators in the classroom. They all looked back at Jacob and whispered to each other. The word about the crisis of the North Atlantic Dragon Clan had spread through the dragon tribe, and the young cultivators began to recognize Jacob as the prince of the North Atlantic Dragon Clan. The clubs which had tried to recruit Jacob now all kept their distances. After all, the elders and their families were all trying to stay away from the North Atlantic. Ignoring their whispering discussions, Jacob steadied his breathing and circulated the sword shadow scroll in his body. With a peaceful body, heart, and mind, he circulated the 5 elemental sword energies in his body, and the dragon core gradually grew. Although there were no clear divisions in third level, with 70 openings unlocked, Jacob was somewhat in the mid-tier. However, with his current strength, he could defeat any third-level cultivator with one hand. That was why he didn't care about the gossip of these weak dragon cultivators. Time ticked away, and the afternoon classes ended in the blink of an eye. Jacob picked up his books and returned to the dorm before riding Snowflake, the express train to visit the prisoner in the North Atlantic Dragon Palace. As the prince of the Dragon Palace, he went into the palace and to the small building where Sophie was locked in without incident. Sophie had been waiting for Jacob for the whole day. After hearing the knock on the door, she immediately pushed the book she had been reading under the pillow. "Who is it?" "It's me," Jacob answered. Sophie felt happy, but she said in a nonchalant tone, "Come in. It's annoying that you come to bother me every day." Jacob pushed open the door with a smile, knowing what Sophie was really thinking. As a girl who loved to have fun, she was bored to death being locked in a small building. Draken was, in fact, trying to tame her a little by grounding her. "What did you do today?" Jacob shut the door and walked over. "Nothing. I just slept," Sophie answered him sulkily. "Did you do some revision?" Jacob continued to ask. "No, I just slept for the whole day." "Oh, what's this then?" Jacob pulled out a math exercise booklet from beneath her pillow. A corner of the book poked out from the pillow, and Jacob spotted it in one glance. Sophie just looked away. She had been very determined to get good grades to make her parents proud, and she's even now, but she's also mad at them for locking her up like this. So she's taking it out by giving Jacob a hard time in the short tutoring sessions they're able to manage. "Did you eat?" Jacob put the book on the nearby desk and asked her. When he entered the room, he saw an empty meal box at the entrance and knew that she had begun to eat today. "I did," Sophie answered simply. She had fully planned to not eat anything in protest of her grounding, but had given up after the hunger got too much to bear, and the smell of the delicious palace food was so close to her all day long. Jacob settled on the bed in front of her. "And what did you do today as a free person, who's not locked up in this prison?" Sophie asked dramatically. Jacob hesitated for a moment, but then answered, "I actually took Kathy to visit her parents today." "Her parents? Don't they live somewhere in the UK?" Sophie asked back. "They do. Kathy was really upset today as she was missing them. She hadn't seen them in years. So she asked me to take her to them, and we flew there on Snowflake," he explained. "Oh." Sophie didn't know what else to say. Her first reaction was to be upset with Jacob on hearing Kathy's name. But she also thought about how Kathy had to live all alone, so far away from her family. She could understand the need to see them, especially when she had a resource like Jacob to make it happen. Yeah, she didn't talk to them directly, but she seemed really happy to see them, Jacob added, trying to understand Sophie's reaction. "That's nice. It was sweet of you to do that for her," Sophie finally said with a small smile. After that, they settled into their normal routine of talking about random things, and Sophie begrudgingly asked Jacob to help her with the concepts she didn't understand. After about 2 hours, Jacob closed the exercise booklet and stretched his shoulders before standing up. Sophie was a bit numb in her legs after a whole day of sitting, and she was a little reluctant to see Jacob leave. "I promise I'll come back tomorrow. 10 days will pass quickly," Jacob comforted her. With Draken's resolute personality, he definitely wouldn't release Sophie before the time was over. "Okay," Sophie agreed half-heartedly. "One more thing. Don't get sluggish on cultivation. You can't cultivate the formal techniques until you reach the foundation establishment realm," Jacob reminded her. Sophie nodded at him. Being so close to a breakthrough, even she was eager to get to the foundation establishment realm. Jacob smiled at her before walking out of the room and shutting the door behind him. General Arthur was waiting outside. Seeing Jacob walking out from the small building, he took 2 steps forward and asked, "Prince Jacob, how is the princess today?" "Soph's good. She started eating on her own, too. You should increase her meal sizes," Jacob answered. After a moment of consideration, he asked, "How has Susan been in the past couple of days?" I'm not sure. Elder Kayla is taking care of Inspector Susan," General Arthur answered cautiously. "Okay," Jacob nodded before taking out a small, exquisite wooden box. "Please, give this to Elder Kayla, and ask her to give it to Susan." "What is this?" General Arthur was baffled. "These are the godly elixir pills from the 9 Dragon Palace. I got 1 of each kind. She hasn't recovered after such a long time, so I hope these pills can help her. It's already too late, so I won't visit her today," Jacob said casually. Taking the heavy box, General Arthur was astonished as he thought, The prince is indeed generous." Although Jacob took out quite a lot of godly elixir pills from the 9 Dragon Palace, each of them was priceless. Besides, the 9 Dragon Palace was now sealed, and it was impossible to get more pills from it, making these pills even more precious. From Jacob's perspective, the godly elixir pills were useless to him, and Susan could take them with her high realm. Besides, she was not one of the core members of the North Atlantic Dragon Palace, and thus she wouldn't be given any precious godly elixir pills. That was why he gave her his share. "That's all. I'll come to visit again tomorrow." Jacob strode to the main gate of the North Atlantic Dragon Palace. General Arthur watched Jacob leave swiftly on Snowflake's back. After a moment of consideration, he hurried to Elder Kayla's palace. He was a reliable man, and that was why Jacob asked him to run this errand for him. However, the godly elixir pills were precious, and General Arthur didn't want to keep them for long. He hurried to Elder Kayla's residence to hand the box to her in person. Elder Kayla was also astonished when she took the box from General Arthur. As a core elder in the North Atlantic Dragon Clan, she had been allocated only 2 godly elixir pills, which could only help her cultivate. But in the box was a set of 5 godly elixir pills, and Jacob had given them all to Susan.